Welcome everybody to Teamfight Talkshow. I am DoA. With me is Frodan as always, and today we have our special guest. He is worlds bound. It is DQA. How you doing today, DQA?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, except there was a K-drama we were trying to figure out the name of right before the show started, and we couldn't figure it out, so now that's going to weigh on my mind for the entire show. The main character's name was Park Seo-roy. Anyone know that in chat? Just shout it out. Frodan, how you doing? Watch any K-dramas lately?
Not lately, not since I think high school was like super popular. It was pretty meta, but that was like because it was a lot easier to access than I think like, torrenting anime was. So and then a lot of streaming sites started coming out. So haven't really watched my fair share of K-dramas. Although I guess if you look at some of the results from regionals, it kind of was like a K-drama, DoA. We got some really exciting moments, some bromance, as well as some heartbreaking moments as well. So
that is
I'm
true.
going to talk about today.
No one was hit by a car as far as we know, so it's not quite K-drama, but we're getting there. It was Itaewon Clap, by the way. Thank you, chat. I knew chat had my back there. We got it. But yeah, that's right. We've got a lot to talk about today, of course, with the World's qualifier results. There was 11.6. We'll touch on that patch. There was actually just a mini patch that was dropped today as well. But before all that, we got to get to know our guests a little bit better. So DQA, we like to, for those of you who don't know you that well yet, and everyone should kind of know you by your games and the qualifiers so far, and at least your latter performances lately. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into TFT? Where were you headed with TFT? Introduce yourself.
So during set 1, like on release, my friends were queuing up as like an 8-man. They needed one more person, and then I was just currently hard stuck flat in League at the time, and I was just thinking that I really want to play more League, everything like that. And they said to me, we need one more for an 8-stack for to test out TFT, and I was like, I've never played an auto chess game before. I have no idea what this is, and I'll probably suck at it, so I don't think I want to play with you guys. But they like eventually convinced me, and then I got kind of hooked. And then in set 1, I hit Challenger, and then yeah, I just kind of went away from there.
Yeah, you like when they say some people just hit, like you just hit when it comes to TFT, like it just ended up being like the game for you, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. So after all that work, last set 4, now you're going to Worlds. That's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah,
you want to expand
on that? When DoA and I actually first started casting TFT pretty regularly, you competed in the Fandom Legends event, and you were still under the username DoQ Abuser, which
that's right
is DQA. Actually, Can you talk a little bit about your username real quick before we actually dive into more of your tournament lore?
So basically, DoQ Abuser was like just a name that like I changed to like when I played League, because I was hard stuck, and then like I played with like a bunch of friends. I always found it more fun to play League with friends. So then they said I couldn't climb without playing DoQ, so I was like, okay, well, let's change that name to that. And then when I hit rank 1 in set 4, I decided to change my name because I thought that it didn't really fit anymore, since it has like no correlation to TFT. And then I wanted to like make like an easier like brand name or anything like that, but I still wanted people to like recognize who I was. So then I just shortened it and added TFT behind it. So yeah.
All right. Well, that makes sense. Well, either way, we were watching you compete in set 2. I think it was the meta where like Blender was obnoxiously good, and everyone was kind of like trying to start Spatula. And to see you come all the way since then, I mean, what's that journey like been for you? Was that kind of the start of your competitive career, actually? Because I think that was the first time I saw you compete back then.
Yeah, so that was like the first like legit tournament TFT that I participated in, and I wasn't super big into like the competitive scene, and like I basically just played TFT for fun. I didn't like watch Twitch streams or like try to get better or anything until like set 3, set 4 ish. So then back then I was just playing for fun. Yeah, that was like basically the start for me.
All right, cool. So what is it, I guess, I'm curious, what is it about TFT that's made you dive into it so hardcore? Like you've been playing the entire time, basically. Like what is it about it that first time you played that hooked you this much?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. It just seemed like really interesting to me that like I felt like I just had like control over everything, and this was just me and not like relying on my team like difference in League. And then like I just like the strategic and like problem solving aspect of it, and like when like obviously it feels really, really good when you're like good at something. So then I just did challenges that one. I was like, wow, I'm kind of good at this. Maybe I should keep doing it. So
seems like a good idea.
Do you feel like a lot of people like to point at your age, especially since I think you're applying to colleges, right? And trying to finish high school and whatnot. Talk to me a little bit about that. I think a lot of people look at age being something that's more important in other games, right? Like people talk about young people in like League of Legends or other games where mechanics are a lot more important, versus like in games like TFT. It's okay to be a little bit older, especially if you have more experience in the genre. So what's your thoughts when everyone keeps talking about how young you are? Do you like that, or do you feel like you're kind of tired since everyone keeps pointing about how young you are?
I mean, I don't really mind it. I think it's fine. I don't think that like age has like a lot less of an impact on TFT than a lot of other games. But I think that Karam said an article about how I'd like Zoomer APM or something like that. But like I think that APM can be improved just through just like playing TFT and stuff like that. So like I don't really think that I don't really think that age has like particularly makes like a big effect, and I'm fine with being like the youngest player on the scene right now.
Okay.
That's cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm ready to move on and talk about some patch notes real quick. What do you think, Frodan?
Yeah, let's talk about it. We actually have a really packed show, so sorry for that like short interview with DQA, but obviously he streams a lot, so you can always ask him questions anytime if you want to get to know him better.
Exactly. Yep. So we got a little bit of balance patches going on. This one, we had a little patch with 11.6. Obviously, the most recent one though happened literally like 30 minutes ago, like 45 minutes ago, maybe now it seems like, where there were a couple little nerfs, but some stuff stands out at me here. Like the Nico damage buff is pretty substantial actually, and then there's other little things like Tristana 1 gets a little bit stronger, Tristana 3 gets a little bit weaker, Kale gets a little bit weaker at stage 2, and then substantially, maybe not substantially, but fairly weaker at stage 3, right, level 3, and then a little bit of a mage 7 nerf. So I want to get your thoughts on this DQA, especially because you played so much Kale in the NA qualifiers. Does this scare you at all, seeing a comp you played a lot of get nerfed like this?
To be honest, like going to any qualifier, I was just thinking like I'd try to play towards kill every game because I thought that it was like one of the strongest comps in the game. Now surprisingly, I think that it's slightly weaker, but I think that's mainly because like keepers and ASOL have been like more optimized and like in the meta now. So I think that's kill is no longer like an S tier comp already. It's like an A tier comp. So then by giving it like that slight nerf once again, like I will probably be trying to like I've been like in the past week I've been trying to learn other comps to play and like try to perfect it like the way that I did Kale, so that like I will be able to like play other stuff like at the same like level that I did Kale. I still do think that the 10 damage nerf she will still be playable, but no longer will I be able to force her every game. So
okay, any thoughts on any of the other changes there too?
I think that the mage nerf is necessary. To be honest, I'd probably look to nerf 5 mage along with 7 a little bit more maybe, just because I think that mage is just so strong. Because ASOL and ASOL 1, it just makes it like so powerful. And I think the Nico buff is really warranted, and I really like it because I think that Nico like increasing the number of viable comps that you can play is always a good thing, right? So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's like a stark contrast. Like I think like almost everything in this patch notes makes sense, but if you look at like the broad strokes of what's happening in set 4.5 is that there's like a huge drop off between certain tier 4 carries, where 1-star version of some is like able to carry you all throughout stage 4 and partially into stage 5. Like Kale's like that, Aurelion Soul's like that, and even certain times like certain Slayers like Tryndamere can do that too. And then you have like 4 costs that do like nothing, like absolutely nothing. You get like 1-star, you get 2-star bit. It does not matter. You can prioritize it as your carry. So I do think that like what DQA is saying makes a lot of sense, and why I think like 5 mage might be a candidate to be looked at for nerfs. But I guess they didn't want to tweak too much because they don't want to like make it a comp that you can't really play, and then you go into Worlds and all of a sudden an entire tree that you practice is not very viable. So I agree.
Yeah, I think the danger here is when I see patches like this, whenever I saw there was any balance changes happening, I'm like, oh, all right, because I really don't want a whole lot to change before Worlds, because I feel like overall the meta's in a really good place right now. So I look at these changes, and Nico certainly looks a little bit stronger. Like you were saying, DQA Kale looks a little bit weaker but playable. Tristana still seems playable. So I'm hoping that what I kind of expect, which is things won't change a whole lot except for Nico gets played a little bit more, is going to be the case. Because the last thing we want is a brand new meta, a week or two before Worlds, right? So I get a little bit nervous when I see tweets like this, but this one seems okay. So I'm just curious, are there any changes you would want to see going into Worlds DQA? You mentioned 5 mage a little bit. Anything else you would want to see that you think would be healthier for the Worlds meta?
I think that ASOL in general, ASOL 1 should probably be nerfed. I think you stabilize too hard on stages 3 and 4 with just like one single ASOL. Other than that, I like Mage Swain maybe, but that goes along with like the Mage nerfs once again, and
Right.
possibly a keeper nerf because I think that keepers are also like really strong. Just because like the synergy is so easy to roll for, you can roll for it on level 7, and all it requires is really like one Zyre to be stable. So
Pretty much. Yep.
DoA, should
Anything
we
to
tell him?
I don't know. Wait. Tell him what.
That we have a keeper's lover in our presence.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I love the comp, but that was a it didn't quite do the same thing for me that like Star Guardians, Ocean Mages did. It was fun for a while. I had a keeper's fling, we'll say, but
Okay.
I now it's back to just like if I hit it, then I'll play. But I still think it is one of the most forcible comps out there, though. In all seriousness, you probably still just can force keepers every game and probably take a lot of top fours. I'm not going to win a lot, but take a lot of top fours. Yeah.
For sure.
I was a dirty Tristana reroller even for a few days after Aegon showed me the way after weekend number 1 in NA. But I've since, I only played 2 games of it today out of the 3 games I played. So maybe I'm still on that hype. I don't know. I've got a problem. Please help. We need a Tristana intervention for me at some point. But let's move on. We've got a fun section. Actually, we're going to talk a little bit about the Set 5 news. I almost forgot about this. But there is our fearless leader, Mort Dog. And there's a lot of stuff that came out in this video, isn't there?
Yeah, so Set 5, this video, I highly recommend you go back and watch if you haven't seen it. It gives a preview of Set 5, which is called TFT Reckoning. It's basically a fight of good versus evil, which is a really cool theme. And you're kind of like pledging based off your commander. I believe it was Garen versus, is it Darius? But they revealed a trait, Draconic, which is like eggs store up onto your bench and they hatch later and do other things, which we don't really know what that means, but it's pretty cool, right? It kind of has that element of like Ornn, where you want to like play a trait or play something, have it stack and accumulate over time, and you get a payoff later, which I think is pretty fun. I do wish it was a little bit less swingy than Ornn, so hopefully ends up being pretty balanced. And then there's some really cool other mechanics they talked about, like for example, Teemo, which is a devil, is going to cost health instead of gold, which is really interesting. I've never really thought of that as just like, because gold is just the primary way you buy champions. That seems to be like one of the things that they're talking about. And they also said that Draven is coming back. So I'm really happy about that in particular, because I know Draven from Set 1 was still probably my favorite comp to play back when you had Imperials. And you could just go absolutely off and just have Draven like hyper carry that. It was really fun.
Yep, there's that Teemo you were talking about as well, like costing health, which is a really interesting dynamic in the game. I can't wait till I see my first person just end themselves with a Teemo accidentally and then type thanks Mort or something like that. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Hopefully it happens when it's a close 1v1 and it's not me. It could easily be me. But I'm really curious about the dragon thing too, where it's like I'm nervous when I see things filling up my bench. That concerns me. But I'm sure if you manage it, it's probably going to be pretty solid. But there's, of course, Draven. Like, we remember, like, DQA, you really remember as well, where Draven was super strong in set number 1. So I wonder if we're going to see that kind of, like, mega carry potential that we did back then. Yeah.
No. I'm really excited, too. Draven was one of my favorite carries in the game, and I distinctly remember, like, trying to play it. It was, like, super fun for me, so I'm really excited about Draven, too.
We also have the turbo mode that they mentioned as well. TFT Labs, they're going to be testing some different things in there. I think it's called hyper rolls, what they call it, aka turbo mode. They said it starts with 10 HP. I think they went back on that and later said it's 20 HP now that you're going to start with. But either way, it'll be a very, very quick game. And that'll be an interesting way to play too, because sometimes like we all get in that situation where we want to play TFT, but we don't have 30-40 minutes to put a full game in and really kind of give it all. But a little like 10 to 15 minute version of TFT sounds amazing, actually.
Yeah, so they're basically going to have you start at 10 health, and every time you lose it's like -1 health, and I'm sure like as the game gets longer you're going to like take 2 or 3 damage, and all the rules have changed, so like carousel, items, PvE. And I think it's important because there's two things really important about this. One, it's interesting that they're willing to test different game modes like this, because there's other game modes that are being requested, like team mode, for example, which would be really lit if that came to TFT. So I'm glad that Riot's willing to experiment it, and it gives them an opportunity to put out a product that maybe isn't fully fleshed out, and then it's acceptable, right? Because if it was like the other way to play TFT. People be like, "This is garbage. I'm never going to play it." Dominion factor, right, for League of Legends,
Right.
and or Twisted Tree Line. I like that they have this like little labs experimental thing. And the second thing is that it's really important that they're trying to get even more people to play it, because quite frankly, TFT is a really big time commitment for so many people. It's one of the biggest turnoffs. I think people are like, oh, I would love to play, but I only have like 20, 30 minutes. I don't feel like I can queue TFT, and then they fall out of the habit, and then they feel like they fell behind on the meta. So having like accessible, approachable stuff is really important for casuals. And eventually gateway them into the normal way to play TFT so that players like DQA can farm them in tournaments. So it's really important to funnel this. Otherwise, you're going to eventually bleed the player base, and a game like this won't ever have a successful competitive scene if the casual player base is ignored.
Exactly. The good news is what we have on the screen right there, where apparently we've got 10 million daily active users, which is huge. That's, for those of you who don't know, like in terms of just people playing your game, that's getting up there. That's a substantial amount of people playing every day. So that's a really good sign for TFT, not just as an esport, but as just a successful video game going forward. So kind of this surprise breakout hit that continues to surprise and break out more for Riot, which is great to see, because we've all been loving it a lot. So seeing things like that kind of gives you a lot of hope for the future, But I gotta ask you, DQA, like talking about the lab and things like that, what sort of like special game modes would you like to see added to that? If you could create a game mode, what would you create?
I think the team mode is like one of the biggest things. Like I've played like a few 4v4 tourneys or like a 2v2 tourney in the past, and I think those are all really fun because like you're like implementing like new different strategies that like you normally wouldn't when it's like a solo game. And obviously like with like the solo game, I think it's like all the decisions are more reliant on yourself, but like adding another person or adding like 3 other teammates for you would like add like a new level of complexity. So then I think that like adding like a team mode of the game would just be like really good for it. And like being able to play with your friends is obviously like super important, right? Like even when I played League, I just found it so much more fun being able to play with friends, discuss like different strategies together. So
I'd agree. What about a game mode where we had like a board that was just like 2 boards put together? And so you were literally playing on the same board as someone else, and you could scroll between the 2 boards and put stuff on their side. They could put stuff on your side, and then you played against 2 other boards. You both have your own individual shops. That's what I like to see. Let's take it all the way with teams.
TFT is complicated enough already, man. It's hard enough to balance. Can you imagine difficulties to try to
separate
balance?
ladder? Don't worry about it. It's fine. The game would like the League client would probably explode if we tried to do something like that. I don't know. I don't think it'd end well. But either way, lots to be excited about going forward to set 5. One thing I want to add is I'm actually really glad that the PBE is going to be available later for this set, because it was a little bit tough in going from set 3 to set 4. I'm sorry, from set 3 to set 4, where the PBE became available before Worlds happened. And so it was really, really tough. I had heard for a lot of the pros to get practice, but that also, even for us as casters, like we wanted to play the new PBE, even though it was really our job to make sure we still stayed mega up to date on the live game. So I'm glad I don't have to have that conflict this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our set 5 preview. I think there's a lot to be excited with on that note. But now it's time to move on to somebody's favorite segment. I think it's a great segment. We call it Agree. And here's where we pose some interesting questions, have some debates over it. DQA, you just have to choose agree or disagree. Our first question is as follows. NA is the strongest region at Worlds. Agree?
I'm gonna go with the disagree for this one. I think.
Oh, all right. The cell phone. Let's hear more.
I do think that like NA is like one of the strongest regions, but after like watching like VODs of a lot of like the other regions, I think that like there are lots of players in like other regions that I would consider better than myself, and also like us as a region. And then like I think recently Stocks did an interview where he said that like he thinks EU is like a lot better than NA, and I don't think like. I think there are definitely players that would like match like the strength of like different regions, but like it's not like really one region is better than like another, because like it really just depends on like how the player is. Like I know for example one of the players from like China is like really, really good. I was watching his VODs and he seemed like super good. He just did like a bunch of things that I would never think of doing, and I think that we have a lot to learn from that. But on the other hand, like I watched like a different player's VODs from China, and I would consider myself a better player than him in general. So I think it really just differs from player to player, but I do not think that NA is the strongest.
Interesting. All right. So
Wow.
what? Before we get Frodan's sake, I just want to really quick here. What other players specifically in other regions? You mentioned that one Chinese player, but who are there any other names you want to shout out as players that NA needs to be worried about?
Jing is really good from EU. I was watching like his VODs, and I think that he is like super good. And I think that a lot of the players from France also are like really good. And I don't think that it's like a particular like coincidence that 7 out of 10 4 to 6 people from EU are from France or something like that. Or is it 6 out of 8? Either way, like there's like a huge proportion of people from EU that were French, and then like they're like the only like country slash like region with like weekly tournaments. So I think the practice comes into it a lot
Okay.
too.
Yeah, I can see that. France has produced a lot of really great players over the years in a lot of different games, like especially like StarCraft, other strategy games. So no surprise there. Frodan, what's your opinion on this topic?
I also disagree. I really want to agree, and that's not because I don't think DQA, Ramkev, Sox, and Kurum aren't like good players at all, but it's because I think it's a little too close to tell at the moment. Like DQA said, like China sends really great players, and like because their player base is so massive and they have so many servers, it's almost like very close to statistically impossible that any bad players have qualified through. Like there's just too many like players who have grinded a ton to beat like millions of other players in China alone. So they're definitely a region to be feared in their black box because we don't really have as much access to information in terms of like their VODs and who they what kind of styles that they play. If you watch Twitch Rivals today, you know Ginger really put on a clinic just like showing why he is, he was global rank 1 and why he is like the player to be feared from the EU region. So overall, and of course, Korea, I think, has a lot of opinions on the way the West plays, and the West has a lot of opinions on the way Korea plays. It's going to be really interesting. I can't wait. So the reason why I only disagree is because I don't know who's the strongest region right now. So I can't really say that North America is the best.
All right. Well, we'll see. I mean, I know Chad is counting on someone to say that NA is the best region, but who are you kidding? You know who I am. When have I ever said NA is the best region in anything? I think NA is really good in TFT, and I've maybe suggested that they might be, but come on. Where am I from? Look at my history. I mean, I'm from North America, but look at where I lived for a while in my esports career. The majority of my esports career was Korea, and we always knew in League of Legends the Koreans were the best players. And then we always had the LCS casters say, no, this is TSM's year. NA is going to do great at Worlds. And it never happened. So I have to disagree. I think we've got a lot of great players in NA, partially because of what Frodan said, though. We just don't know. We haven't seen enough of the other regions. But also I'm just going back with Riot Games esports tradition here, the history. And in general, it's not gone well for NA. So I can't fight fate. I can't fight the passage of time, right? So I just feel it's safer to disagree with this one. I'm sorry, everybody out there.
It's okay. It's okay because we still have Madden. We're number one.
2K League, man. Don't forget. Yeah. NHL. We got all those. FIFA. Oh, maybe.
CDL.
Yeah. Some fighting games, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Japan didn't exist. But all right, let's move on to the next question. It's going to be here's a spicy one. Okay. More melee carries is better than more ranged carries in a set. What do you think, DQA?
I disagree. I think that range carries are like really fun, and I think that like a lot of times like I really enjoyed playing Ashe and Jhin. I think that like there's like a lot more like variance like positioning, like where you can put them on the board, and like there's just like a lot more options that you can do with them in comparison to melee carries. Like if you see an Olaf, it's always going to be put in the front unless you have like an RFC on or something like that. Or if you see like a Tryndamere, it's always going to be put in the front, and there's a lot less like positioning nuances that you can do with it. Versus range carries, like there are like situations where you like put it in the front, the situations where you like pocket it, or like even back center. There's like a lot more options, I think. And additionally, like it just feels like having like a distinct difference between front line and back line makes a lot more sense to me. So,
all right, Frodan, what do you think?
Yeah, this one's a disagree from me as well. Just look at the current set, and you see like Aurelion Sol, Kale, and these like really big important range carries. Not that many range carries. That's why I stopped there. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to do some really neat stuff. I remember the first time I saw Aurelion Sol go to front line, it kind of blew my mind. I was just like, wait, who ever does that? And then I just thought about it a little bit more, and it makes a lot of sense. especially if you're playing like the Dragon Soul variants and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
really cool to see that kind of nuance to it. I will say the caveat is when melee carries have an additional trait to really juice them up. So like an example would be the way assassins or shades move, right? Like that gives you a lot of positioning nuance for melee carries that can ultimately be something really different and dynamic. But in general, I would say that as a rule of thumb, I would like a little bit more range carries, just because it really capitalizes on one of the cool strengths, core mechanics of the hexes and the positioning.
Mhm. Okay. I think I will also disagree with this, but I will say that I think it's good to have at least as many melee carries as ranged carries. I don't think it's better to have more ranged carries than melee carries. I think if it's pretty even, that's the best because if because of the reasons you said with ranged carries, but I don't want the game to be 100% about front line, have your strong front line, have your strong back line, and that's TFT.
Yeah,
It's a
no, that's
loud
really good.
motorcycle driving by. But yeah, it's I think it's better when you have that kind of diversity with it. What I'd like to see actually is carries with sort of that medium range, you know, where you can't put them all the way in the back line effectively, but you don't want to put them in the front line and maybe play around with that a little bit, like second line carries, things like that, or things that gain range from time to time too. So a little bit more done to diversify how melee carries operate. Kind of piggybacking off what Frodan said, but I think that'd be cool for the game.
Yeah, I think a good example of that might have been Cassiopeia from Galaxies.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
like
good example.
this unit that has a ton of potential for damage and carry, but like struggle with range. I think that trade off is really cool. So I agree. I think that more stuff like that is interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, 6 disagrees out of 2 questions so far. Let's see what the third one has to offer us. Might be like a recent chat mentioned, might be the triple disagree. The general attitude towards Masters, Grandmasters players who qualified for regionals has been overly toxic. DQA?
Um, I'll probably say agree.
All right.
So my reasoning for this is, well, I do not think like I think I've said this before in like a previous interview or something that I've done, and basically I've said that like there's like a huge difference in skill between like low challenger, high challenger, challenger, GM. Like the
Mhm.
cutoff in skill is actually like I when I like I still only feel like I'm beginning to learn the game, and I've been like rank 1 slash hovering top 5 for like most of the set. But like the thing is like there's just like still so much to learn, and like there's just so many like nuances and like things that you can do better. But the thing is like these people obviously since they qualified for regionals, I think that like they like deserve a chance at the shot, and I like completely agree with like the fact that there should be like a chance for like the casual player to like get into like the competitive scene, just like for so that it's like it draws more attention and everything like that.
Mhm.
And while I do not think that we compete on the same level, I think that like obviously we should be like still welcoming to like these types of players that are like trying to get more into the competitive scene, because who knows, like maybe like a Masters player that qualified for like this regionals, while they like might not, while they probably will not do that well, they will like get a new like inspiration to like do better in the next tournament.
True. All right. Frodan,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah, this is a hard agree from me. It makes me really sad when I see other competitors, even our most prominent ambassadors and streamers of the game, kind of like I get that there a lot of times it's very joking that they're like flaming some of the players who aren't doing really well, or like it's really difficult if you take like what feels like an undeserved like bot 2 and you see someone take like an undeserved top 4 based off like how well they're rolling or how hard they're hitting, but like they're making really obvious fundamental mistakes. I totally get that, but it's not supposed to. We're supposed to be a welcoming community, because part of what makes TFT great is that the community is great, and if we're just pushing people out, one, we're gonna build up a reputation of just basically being like another League of Legends community, just kind of being toxic and flaming each other. But two, we need the player base to grow. There's not that many people, interested in competitive TFT. So if you want to kill the last remaining people who are willing to dedicate their hard-earned time to win 10 little Legends eggs, and all you want to do is just make them feel bad for even trying, you need to reevaluate what your actual goals are, man. Like I feel like this is such a sad thing to witness. Like there's so few of us. Let's be more supportive and welcoming. You don't have to give away your secrets, right? And like tell them like everything they should be doing better and help them. But like everyone's trying their best. And I really loved watching the open competitors, mainly Jirachi and Otter Bear, make such a deep run, because I think that's inspiring for a lot of other people who also want to do that same thing. And also be careful who you talk about too, because there's other players with other different backgrounds, like Wolfie, right? Wolfie, he's a player that hit Grandmasters. He like is on the cusp of Challenger, but he would probably qualify as like a Grandmasters player. And he's like a world champion in Pokemon, and he's a caster of TFT. And if people like were flaming him back then for just being like another Masters GM player, this guy clearly is very good at like these kinds of games. So you also have to just like check yourself, check your ego just a little bit when it comes to these players who are looking up to you, but also want to beat you.
True. Yeah. I mean, there's not much to add to what Frodan just said. Yeah. It's the funny thing is I think as time goes on, as we get more tournaments going, and as we get spectator mode as well, and things stop relying so much on streaming in TFT on the esports side, I think we're going to see more players come out of lower spots on the ladder, because the ladder is if you look at most esports, the ladder is not the end all be all of skill. It's usually tournaments, right? And so a lot of times people will be practicing off of the ladder, off of the stream, to hide their strategies, to prepare things to do well in tournaments. So as TFT esports develops, I think the ladder is going to become less and less important as sort of a litmus of how good someone is. And it's not going to be as big of a deal if someone comes in as a GM if they've done all this tournament prep with the best players and they're ready to go, right? So we'll see. I'm looking far ahead into the future with TFT, but I think it's going to balance out where like ladder's not going to be seen the same way it is now. So I'm going to agree with that as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, we didn't really deviate from each other's answers, but
not much.
I think it was a good discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we've ever had one before where we've all been in agreement with every question. I think that's a first. I don't know. Can you remember the time that happened? I can't.
I can't either. So it might be a first time in our history, but I'm sure we'll pick better topics that are a little bit more divisive. Maybe it was a little bit too easy, too much.
Could be. Maybe those are softballs today. Who knows? All right. Well, let's move on. Agree is over. Now it's time to talk about esports news, and there's a good amount to talk about here. First, let's take a look at the qualification map towards Worlds overall. As you can see, we've got different numbers coming from different regions. We know who some of these players are, but we do not know who all of these players are. So we're going to kind of look at what we know so far, talk about a little bit. Obviously, the regions outside of NA, we're not going to be quite as familiar with, but we're starting to see it come together for Worlds. Yeah. Where do you want to go from here? Next slide,
I guess let's first show who is qualifying, I guess. Like,
yeah, I think we've got that.
List of the player names, so we can just talk about them and maybe just get DQA's insight.
There we go.
Yeah. Each of them. So we'll start with the easy ones. DQA North America. Talk to me about Kurum, Sox, and Kev, just like briefly. I don't think we need too much of an introduction, but go ahead.
So I think that obviously all of the players that have qualified from NA are all really, really good players, and I respect all of them a lot. Remkev kind of a dark horse, but I have seen Remkev play, and I think he's actually like really, really good. So like even though he was like not as well known going into the tournament, I think that he definitely had a good shot at qualifying, and I think that he deserves his spot there. And then as for Sox, I think that he is probably like the best player in North America. Obviously he was like our Worlds representative last time. He's super consistent in tournaments, and he's always looking for like a different way to get better. And then Kurum is probably like one of the most hardworking TFT players for sure. So then I respect him a lot, and he's been like a really good mentor for me for like streaming and like the TFT like competitive scene in general so far. So yeah.
Okay.
All right.
How much do you know about Korea? There's a lot of attention because they are the next biggest region outside of China that NA and EU usually talk about in terms of their meta differences.
To be honest, I watch Korean VOD sometimes. I don't really like pay attention to like the names or anything like that, and like I don't speak Korean or like read Korean at all, so like I wouldn't like recognize like any of these players that well. But like I have seen like the Korean meta and like have seen like a lot of their playstyles, and I think that they're a lot of them are really good. I would say that they're like there's like significant differences between their playstyles and NA, so I'm like looking forward to like seeing how they fare against like the NA playstyle instead.
Yeah, same. Coming from that, having spent a lot of time in that region, I'm excited to see how Korea does. Again, because they're so aggressive. I love the aggressive style because it's kind of the opposite, honestly. Like the way the Korean region plays TFT is sort of the opposite of the way they play League of Legends, which the Korean region was known for a long time as playing a very measured, methodical map control style in League of Legends, whereas the other regions tended to be more aggressive, more kill, more team fight focus. Whereas in TFT, we have the Korean region playing very aggressive, not playing the economic style that we see be very popular in NA. So that fascinates me, and I haven't gotten to watch a ton of their play yet. So I'm super curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the player to focus on, in my opinion, is Tingding from Korea.
Ding
just
dang,
because
actually.
I regularly see them always like top 10 in ladder.
Mm.
And like they were a profile like when I would so I well you when I was like trying to first learn any set, I always browse Korea boards because North America is usually just like waking up when they're not really playing games. And EU leaderboards are useless because they always just camp. It's like no one plays games ever. It's like you look at the top EU accounts and leaderboards. It's like last played 6 days ago, and then they played to finish their decay games, and then you don't see any activity again. So Korea, they're fearless, man. People who are rank 1, they're like, send it. I'm gonna play like 10 more games. I don't care if I lose rank 1. And Tingting's like regularly a profile that I scouted and constantly there across multiple sets now. So. I think like there's comparisons drawn to like I remember I was watching Bebe stream and I think he was pointing over some people and said like the final 8 basically had the equivalent of players like Solus and Soju and DQA etc. So Korea has a really stacked lineup from their perspective, which I think is going to be really interesting to watch. Again, I can't wait. It's going to be super fun.
I'm sad none of the StarCraft guys got through. The crazy moving, like an old Zerg player from back in the day, was actually streaming the other day, but he's pretty good at TFT over there too. Didn't make it though. I'm curious about Raza from Oceania as well. We've seen him in a lot of tournaments in the past. Cool to see him make it to Worlds. Be interesting to see how far he gets as well. But yeah, I think this Worlds is going to be very eye-opening in terms of I think we're going to really get a great representation of the different regional styles and how those play into each other. Yeah, more than set 3.
I wanted to ask DQA, do you pay attention at all to the regions at the bottom? Because you talked a little about EU, you talked about how powerful the French scene is. We talked about how Jinj is super good, probably the one of the favorites to potentially win it all. How much do you know about Latin and Brazil?
So I actually used to like talk to Pi-Hat, and I've watched some like Latin America and Brazilian gameplay, but I haven't watched enough to know like a lot about their playstyles. I know that like I saw like the Brazilian player playing at Last Worlds, and I thought he was pretty good, I think. So I'm looking forward to like seeing like how their playstyles differences. Like I watched like some of their gameplay, but like not enough to like fully understand like the differences between our region and theirs. But it does seem like the region is more similar to NA than like say Korea or like other regions. But yeah.
All right. Well, a lot to look forward to, certainly from all the players we're going to see at Set 4 Worlds in just a couple of weeks. It's coming up fast. But let's, although the 4 players from NA going to Worlds have been decided, and here's the prize breakdown as well. I suppose we should talk about this a little bit too, where this is some serious cash for even 24th in this tournament. And, it's great to see more of this coming in, especially when you think about it happening, theoretically twice a year with the set model that they've got going forward. The long-term goal is for us to get pro players where it is their job to be good at TFT and we get to watch. And, this goes a long way, I think, in that. Yeah.
Is the prize pool appetizing to you, DK, or does it not matter?
To be honest, I'm just excited that there's like a decent prize pool for me at all. I mean, like this obviously is like a good sum of money, and I think that having seen like the TFT prize pool going in the right direction is really exciting to me. But to be honest, I'm just looking forward to the chance to compete more than anything else. But obviously, like the prize pool like keep on increasing is nice.
If you take first, that could go towards a fraction of your impending student loan debt. That's exciting to think about, isn't it?
Can we do an impromptu segment here? Sorry to throw Kathy, our producer, a little left, but let's do a little bit of predictions. Let's do some world predictions. Because I think the next time we do this show, actually, the next time we do this show might be like the hour before Worlds starts.
It'll be like right before Worlds, yeah.
I'm not exactly sure, but maybe we can get DQA's predictions. DQA, name your top 4, top 8? What do you want to do?
I don't think that I know enough about like all the regions to like really name like a specific top 8. But from what I've watched, like all the VODs that I've seen so far, I think that obviously Jing is probably going to be in the top 4. I think that Sox will probably be in the top 4 also. I was talking to Sox earlier today, and it seems like he's like really good understanding of the meta, and like I was just watching like his play, and I thought that was like really interesting. And then obviously the one Chinese player that I saw, he went like 1-1-1 in the first qualifier, and like studying those VODs made me like I feel like helped me improve a lot, and like just like seeing what he did. So then I think that he is a really, really good player. And then as for the other top 4 slot, I would probably have to give it to like
Yourself?
Put
DQA?
yourself in there, man.
The KO god?
I would like to put myself in there, but I honestly think that there definitely is like another player that's like better than me that deserves that spot more. But we'll see how it goes on like Worlds Day. I'd probably put like one of the EU players there. I've watched like a bunch of the EU players' VODs, and I think they're all really good. So like any one of them could possibly take it.
All right. You can put yourself. I see. You're just playing it coy. You're being humble for when you actually unleash your true power on people worlds. I understand that. I think that's a respectable thing to do. But we're moving on to a moment that everybody loves in the show. It's the NA tier list. You know, we've gone through the qualifiers. We know who's going to Worlds. That might impact your tier list a little bit, but we're gonna do it anyway. Who do you think the best 10 players in North America are? And you can list them in any order. You can move them around. You've seen the show. You know how it works.
So I think that the best player in North America is Sox, and then the one after that is probably gonna be Nubel.
Okay.
So then I think that those two are just like significantly better than like everyone else in NA right now, and they've been like consistently performing throughout all of like the past 2 sets and even before then somewhat. I mean, I knew Nubel's like relatively new, but like just from like talking to Nubel or like hearing his ideas about the game, I think that like he's just really good and he's been super consistent on all of ladder. So then I think that after those top 2, I think there's a gap.
Okay.
Actually,
Wow.
before you continue, Nubel gets a lot of hype from everyone except Nubel himself. So, now talk to me about an instance where you felt like Nubel. Okay, so I know you were just on stream with him at Goobumps, hanging out and chilling, and listening to Sox and Nubel debate was really interesting. It feels like they look at the game fundamentally different in some scenarios. So, talk to me about what separates Nubel from some of these other players, because I think a lot of people would definitely agree with you on Sox, but why Nubel?
So I think that a lot of times like Nubel just like approaches the game in like a kind of different way. He just thinks about like how the fights would go. He just like thinks about like he's really nerdy. he just thinks about how like the game. He just thinks about it kind of differently, and then like he just like puts it into practice, and he's like willing to limit test like everything on main, no matter what. So then like he just does like a bunch of things unconventionally. Like he doesn't really stick to like the books, and then like he's not afraid to like limit test, and then like he like goes from like some like really unconventional ideas, and then I think that testing is what makes him better than like the rest.
Is there anything that became super popular and meta because of him, like in his ideas or some of the things that he limit tested?
I think that like it's not like really like one like super big idea that came from him, but like it's just like from like I remember in like set 4 after I hit rank 1, I went down like I lost like 800 LP in the span of like 3 weeks or something like that. I was like super down, and then like he helped coach me a lot, and then like I think it really like opened my eyes in terms of like adjusting like my gameplay to like optimize it for like every point in the game, because like he was like willing to roll on 6, willing to roll on 7, and like he's like rolled on stage 2 before, and like he just like changes. Wow. He just like changed the way that like I saw like how to play towards the game, and I thought that was like just like really interesting in general. And so I think that like
I mean, for
so,
Fortune, yeah, I've seen it. But,
brave.
Oh, jeez, I can't even imagine.
So yeah, I think that he's just willing to test everything, and because of that, like he just like knows a lot more and just like thinks about it differently.
Okay. Interesting. So you've got this. So there's this gap between Mismatch, Sox, Nubel, and the rest of the pack, mostly because of their understanding of the game and their sort of very different but also very intricate understanding of the game. So who is third then? Who's almost there but not quite?
I think I'd have put GV8 at third.
Okay.
I know that GV8 had like a little bit unfortunate performance at regionals, and it's just like unlucky that like this happened to be like the one tournament that mattered for like the past like set and a half. But I do think that like he's like proven himself to be like the most consistent player. He's always been like super flexible, and like whenever I find myself like watching his gameplay, there's always like something to be learned. And then like he oftentimes he plays like the most random stuff to like a top 4. He is also like kind of more unconventional, but at the same time like he plays like more towards the meta, and like all of his decisions just like make like super clear sense. And I'm just always impressed when he like whenever I watch him, basically.
All right, cool. Who do you got next?
No disagreements here.
Yeah.
I think that as of right now, I would put myself at 4th.
Okay, there it is.
All right,
Finally,
yeah.
I was waiting for some DQA ego. All right, here we go.
So the second best player in the world's squad from NA, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that like I think that I was like really bad like the start of set 4, and like even when I hit rank 1, I was just like really bad. I was just like I learned how to do something like faster than everyone else before everyone like caught on how to like slam Sunfire Spark and then go into Riven basically and then play Kayn. Because like I thought like at the start of set 4 that's basically what I did every game, and like I hit rank 1 off of that. But like I don't think I had like at all any understanding of the game like when I did that. So then like as soon as like my comp got nerfed, I just like fell like 800 LP or something like that. But then like when Goobombs, Nubal, and a couple others, like I just like got more interactive with like the TF community in general, and then like they taught me like a lot about the game, and then I think that like I'm one of like the faster learners in TFT, but like I wasn't like initially good or anything like that. But now like after like I watch a lot of streams, I watch a lot of VODs, and I like talk about TFTs like Goobombs, Nubal, and a bunch of other people every like single day. So then like I think that by learning and like accumulating that knowledge, I've become better over time, and I've been top 5, rank 1-ish for like most of this set, so I think that's like kind of how I've been more proven myself.
Cool. All right.
I like it.
Yeah. Seems logical. All right. Who's number 5? Or you can, like I said, you can pick out of order and then rearrange them. It's up to you.
Number 5. Once again, I think that this was one of the bigger upsets. Regionals also. I think I would put Spencer number 5. I think that Spencer is like a really good player, and like he plays like conventional TFT to like a T basically. So like whenever you watch him play, like all of his decisions might make like completely clear sense, and like he just like makes all the right econ decisions, makes all of like the correct times to roll down. Like he just like it just makes sense whenever you watch him play. So then I just like I was always really impressed by that, and I found it like kind of surprising that he got eliminated so early on.
Do you? So the reason why I feel like Spencer got eliminated is I think he just took like 1 or 2 too many 8s. You know, he's like really good at capitalizing on wins, because he was like his tournament performances was like 2 firsts and 2 8s, and then like random games in between where he got like a 5th and a 4th. And it's just like, what is going on? Like we talk about how getting 8th doesn't really help you qualify, but Spencer's like so good at rattling it off. Is that just his tournament style, or is that just, as you were saying, him playing like the theoretical correct TFT?
I think that in tournament, like it's completely different than ladder. So like, well, I think that like Spencer's like a super good ladder player. In tournament, like obviously like the meta and like the style is just completely different. So like playing conventional TFT a lot of times is not like gonna work out sometimes. But I do think that like he has those like fundamentals down to a T, and like just adjusting that a little bit for like tournament play would be like just make him better than everyone else basically.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Does everything just a little bit better.
Cool. All right. Who do we got for number 6?
Oh, top 5 so far.
Yeah.
At number 6, I'd probably put Burt. I think.
Oh,
I think Burtosaurus, he performed really well on day 1 of the regionals, and obviously qualifier 4. Everyone was super impressed by his performance. I think that on day 2, after rewatching some of his VODs, I think that after like the first 8th or like the first like couple bot 4s, he just felt pressured, and then like obviously in a tournament setting, it's hard not to feel pressured if you're going like bot 4. It's like if you just stay behind the curve, then like you'll just like you'll just get more and more behind. But I do think that like just from like watching his play and like how he thinks about the game, I think that he would be like he just like plays it really well, I think.
So kind of branching off of that a little bit away from the tier list for a moment, then what would you say your secret is to staying calm in a tournament situation? Because every top player takes bot 4s. Like, how do you kind of find yourself getting through that?
Actually on the last day of the tournament, I was just like I was like really like I was like really like sad after like the first couple games because I took like 3 bot fours in a row. I went like 5-6-6 on like the first like 3 games of like the final day of the tournament, and I was sitting
Right.
there thinking, man, I really need like a top 2 in order to bail myself out of this and like in order to make it to Worlds. So then I was just sitting there, and like the 4th game, I just like my opener was just so bad, and I just rolled it down on 3-2. I just missed everything, and it was like on 3-2, I said to myself and my chat, I was um like if this wasn't tournament and I could FF, I would FF right now because I was just like 10 gold on level 6 with like 50 HP. I have 3-2 with like 0 gold, 10 gold, and then like my board wasn't even that good. So then I was just sitting there and like I was just like super sad and like really like stressed out about it. But then like I don't know. It was just like I was just like really sad and stressed. But then like I actually got bailed out by like a chosen kill on 5-1, and then I actually ended up winning that game. That was the only top 2, and that was the first. That was the only top 2 I had over like the past 3 days or something like that, and I just somehow ended up going first because of it. So then
I
I
remember
think
that
that one really helped restore my mental. And then also I think my chat actually like there were lots of words of encouragement, and then I also got a text from my girlfriend like in the middle of the tournament after game 4,
Aw.
and I saw that was like kind of supportive, and then like I had after that game and like all the supporting words, I just like kind of brought it back.
Aw,
That's a great story. A combination of mental fortitude, support
wow.
from
Flex
friends and
as
family and the
well.
loved ones. Yeah, that's right. The GF flex. Yep.
Oh
These
no,
guys
Milk is in
opened-
chat asking the hard questions. All right, we're moving on. We're moving on. Who's number 7?
Yeah, quick, move on.
I think that I'm gonna put Setsuko, and then
Okay.
I think that like once again he's just been like kind of constantly hovering like top 10. I think that his biggest problem is just like his mental. So like I think he's like a super good player, and like he plays like TFT like really well, and I think that he thinks about the game like a lot, and I think he's really good. But the thing is like a lot of times he goes in like a tilt spree and then just like loses everything. So then like that's just like how it is unfortunately. But I think that if he could keep his mental all the time, he'd be like definitely up there also. Um After that one, I'd probably have to put Kiyun, I think.
Okay.
I think
Alright.
overall of set 4 and a lot of set 4.5, he's always been like super consistent. And then like I was watching him play on like day 2 of the tournament, I believe, or like day 1 and day 2 of the tournament. And I think that like he just played like consistent TFT. I was always super impressed by um his fast decision making, and like how well he just like played and thought about it. But then like I think on whichever day he got eliminated, I think that like he just once again he found a series of like low roll games, and then like he really just like lost it from there because I don't think he was playing at his best at all like on the day that he eliminated. But like the few days before, I always saw him like his boards at the end of the game were super capped. He was like super strong at all points in the game, and like obviously on ladder he was like rank 1 for like most of set 4, and like yeah. So he's just been like he's always just super consistent and always up there. So whenever he like wants to care about the game or like whenever he tries, I think he's like super good.
Yeah, when Kiyun is on point, he is like he's just on top. Like he's like the best alongside Sox and everyone else. But like it feels like consistently once per tournament, he has like this catastrophic error where it's just like it was unforced. Like no one's making him make that decision. And he's just like screaming to his chat like I'm griefing, I'm throwing, blah blah blah. And he he spirals a little bit and loses control out of nowhere. And I wonder, you know, if he could just tie that up, Kiyun would probably be one of the most complete players in TFT. He just like every tournament, like one random point, he just like does something like awful, disastrous, and I'm not sure, and just like completely gets out of hand at that point.
You gotta have that strong mental fortitude. Absolutely. If you're gonna make it, you're gonna make it long term as a pro. But you know what I've noticed, DQA, is that we have the 2 bottom spots in the list left available, and we have 2 players going to Worlds that have not yet been mentioned. Are they going in those spots, or are you going to actually bump a player going to Worlds out of your top 10 list for NA?
So about number 9, I think that Kerm is number 9.
Okay.
Ooh, all right,
Sure.
like it.
I don't think Kerm has made it in like one of these tier lists in a while because like no one like particularly respected him. Like obviously during sets 1, 2, and 3, he was like one of the best players during like all of them. But during like set 4, I think he had like a really rough. I think he had like a really rough time. He was like GM for like a lot of the set, and like he just seemed like really sad whenever I watched on stream, and like he just had like a really tough time. But like during all of like set 4.5, I think that like he's been playing like super well, and obviously like his past tournament performance was like super good, played well. And I think that like he tries the hardest out of like every TFT player basically, and I think that like he's like watch the stream, he's always just like thinking about the game. He's
Yeah.
always like on stream. He's like looking for ways to like improve himself, and he's not afraid to like limit test on his main or anything like that in order to like prove himself. So
Yeah, man. Kurum's like Naruto. He's just gonna use hard work and effort, and everyone doubts him. They all kind of laugh because they look at Kurum as more of like, you know, the entertainment side because he's super chill and fun, and they love just hanging out. But eventually, the time will come where Kurum will become the Hokage of TFT. I believe. I believe.
He's been powering up for 3 sets now. He could be the greatest Hokage.
That's right.
Now we'll find out soon. We'll know. All right. So is Ramkev at the bottom of your list? Or are you bumping him? What's going on here?
I think that I had like a really tough time choosing between Ramkev and Ramblin for number 10 on my list because I think that both of them are really
Okay.
good. Obviously, Ramblin like just barely didn't make it out of into Worlds, and then I think, to be honest, I do think that Ramkev like does deserve a place on this list. I'm just not sure where. I think that there's like too many like good players in NA to really decide, but I'm probably gonna have to give it to Ramblin.
Wow. Okay.
So then it's basically like whenever I watch Ramblin, like whether it be on stream or when he's in my chat or anything like that, he always just seems like he's like an idea of where he's going to. Basically, it's like he always looks like a clear path, and like in tournament he's always just like he's pretty consistent. I think he took an eighth like one of the games, and then like but like when he hits, you know, like especially on like day 2, I believe he went like 1-1-1 or something close to that, and I think that like he's actually like really good. And then obviously like this patch especially suits him because mages are super meta, and I think he's definitely like one of the best mage players in North America, and I think he's like
Definitely.
top 3 or top 2 right now or something like that. So I think that like while he's like relatively new, I think that he is really good, and especially since at the regional performance, he's really proven himself.
Yeah, I've really grown fond over Ramblin, just watching him play. I think he like demonstrates like true mastery over a tree, very similar to what DQA does with Kale. It's like Ramblin's like all paths lead to Acel, and I'm like, I don't even know how you're gonna do it from here, man. You have like two belts and a bow, and he somehow gets there like really clean. It's like, oh, I can just slam ZZ Rod and make Titans on Annie and just like reroll mages. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And he like ends up getting it. So you know, I think like because he picked a tree that has so much nuance to it. I mean, mages you can play 3-5-7, you can play Dragon Soul, you can do so many different things. You can play Elderwood as well with it. There's so many positional nuances. I love watching Ramblin when he's like, you know, on fire and he's on point because he demonstrates like true like, you know, mastery, as I was saying, that like, you know, a lot of casuals really don't value high enough because they just look at people as like one tricking, and it's like. I challenge you to try to do the same exact thing because I learned every single game I watched Ramblin because he's just figuring out stuff on the fly, which is really cool.
You know, it's interesting because Ramkev is, to me anyway, kind of almost seems like the antithesis of Ramblin, where like Ramblin is really good at that tree in particular. Ramkev is probably one of the most varied players of the NA qualifiers, where he played a lot of different comps, and so he kind of seems to be that sort of like jack of all trades, but perhaps master of none, although he, you know, obviously has some mastery over everything, but perhaps plays a little bit too broad. So that's interesting that Ramblin would get the spot on this list over that, because they do have very different stylistic differences. Do you feel like that's because it's better to focus on one tree as you're trying to be a top player, or is it just sort of personal preference? You like watching Ramblin more than Ramkev in terms of sticking to a tree versus being very flex?
I mean, to be honest, I like. Well, people say that like I think they think that one tricking like takes like very little skill or like a lot less skill than like playing like towards like super flex. I think that like true flex is like kind of a myth because like you'll always be like playing towards like what's strong in the meta, and like you're playing towards like the strong items, the strong units, and everything like that. And obviously, like every single TFT game is different, right? So then even if I go into a game thinking that I'm gonna hard force Kale or whatever, right? Like I'll go through like the mid game at every point like completely differently, and then like Kale's one of those comps where like you have to like basically full pivoting your board on 5-1 because like you're never going to be able to like play Kale from like a behind spot or like without a lot of econ or anything like that. Same with Ramblin. I think that like he just sees like a lot of different angles, and he sees like a lot of different ways to get into his comp and his branch. And I think that like that's just like super impressive to me that like he knows like what to do to get into like the correct spot to do what's right. Like yeah. But I think that Ramkev like to be honest, I would have to like watch him a lot more. Like I watch all of his VODs of like his tourney, and I watch the stream sometimes, but I think I would have to watch him more. And I think that like both of them like really deserve a spot here, but I think that like there just aren't enough basically. But yeah, I think I think both of them have like really specific skill sets, and I think they're both like really good at what they do basically.
All right, cool.
I can't help but notice that there's an omission of some of the most popular people that tend to make this list, like Cloud9's K3 Soju or TSM Solus. Would you like to add some additional comment, some bonus memes, if you will, onto this top 10 from DQA?
I think that Soju has always been like super good, and I think that he's been really consistent. But I think that like throughout like most of set 4 and set 4.5, he doesn't really care that much. And I think that like I don't know, maybe he's getting some old or something. But yeah, so like
yeah,
like
he definitely
23.
looks old to me. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
yeah, but like
definitely
yeah,
too
he
old.
just like didn't do enough
He
prep. I
ages
think.
you, man. That's why.
But yeah, I think that maybe he just didn't do enough prep, or like maybe like he could have done like he could have done more to like practice. He just I think on like the day of the tournament he just like a completely incorrect read of the meta, which is like what really cost him. And I think that while Solus has like his really good patches and his like time in the spotlight in like top 10 or like rank 1 or like top 5, I think that Solus is really good, and I think that he probably is really close to a spot here. But I think that a lot of times like in tournament, like he's really first rate. I mean, he obviously went with like a fortune play style, and I was like, I think it's mainly just because like he forgot how to like play like the fundamentally like what he wanted to do, and then he didn't think that he could win like by playing like fundamentally. So then he just like went in and tried to play fortune, went first race, and then just like got out because of it. So I think he's kind of inconsistent, but I still think that both of them are really good players either way.
Nah, just too old. Let's move on. It's gonna be we got a question here from the mailbag. And here's the question from TV Lucky Man 1314. It's very easy to sit down and play one game a day in top 4, but how do top tier players like DQA, that's you, manage to continuously play well for multiple games, hours in a row? How do you keep that mental fortitude up?
To be honest, I'm mauled a lot on stream. I think that a lot of times, like a lot of different streamers, they have like different ways of dealing with like backseaters, or like when you just like really low roll game, or like there's like nothing you can really do about it. But I think that a lot of times I just play the game, and like whenever I play well, I just know I'm playing well, and then like whenever I don't think I'm playing well, I just like try to stop like immediately. But like so then like I know when I'm playing well and I know when I'm not. So then I basically just like continue playing whenever I think I'm doing well, and then like I just try not to let like little things affect me, or like if I think that I played like to like the best of my ability in a game, then like I won't let that tell me. I will try not to let that tell me if I go like buff war or whatever.
All right, cool. It's a good answer. I thought that was an interesting question. What do you got for me?
Yeah. I think that it depends on your approach with the game. Some people just play TFT to relax. I mean, maybe they're like, a Summoner's Rift player and they just want to chill with their favorite champions, and that's all well and good. But, actually, I play in a lot of lobbies with Lucky Man, because I think we're about the same MMR, like Masters GM level. And, I think that to really break that next tier is really an obsession of learning. I think that the big thing that separates players from DQA, even from players that he even gaps himself on, like socks and everything, is basically like a hunger for knowledge. Wow, that sounds super corny, but basically people who like really want to be like to never stop improving and learning the game. The moment you start thinking that there's nothing that you could do that game, I mean, sometimes it's true, like but I would say in TFT it's rarely the case. The moment you start changing your mentality to I got unlucky, Mort Dog screwed me, this game sucks, etc., is when you stop improving. And, in TFT, there's always something to improve. That's partially what makes this game so compelling on a competitive side, because there's just like so many variables and so many levers that you can turn to improve your gameplay, that the pursuit of knowledge is almost just as important. So a lot of times a way you could approach it is, what could you have learned from that game? And to play multiple games in a row is when you start stacking that mental LP, right? Because you have the visible LP on your profile, but you can mentally improve game after game and stack that mental LP. That's what you should be aiming for every single game. And if there's one common theme that I've gleaned from interviewing DQA tonight, is that he keeps saying how he's learning. He's learning from other players, he's learning from himself, and he's learning from every single opportunity that he has. And so I think, my advice to anybody, including Lucky Man here, it's a great question, is shift your focus away from stacking the LP and the visible rank from Diamond to Masters to Grandmaster to Challenger, and to keep trying to improve that knowledge gap that other players have over you.
Wow. I've seen the speech at the end of Independence Day, and I was like really inspired at that point. But that was nothing compared to what I just heard from Frodan. I'm ready to conquer the ladder now. DQA, I'm sure you feel the same. Oh, congratulations to TV Lucky Man 1314. You are a giveaway winner as well. Want to shout you out for the great question that you asked to spur such wonderful conversation. But that's going to do it. What a great note to end the show on. DQA, any final thoughts? You've been a great guest. Any shout outs, final thoughts before we end it all?
I'd like to shout out like a lot of my friends are helping me get better, like Goomums, Nubel, Nico, Chessmage. All those people like really helped me like get better, and like talking to them about TFT and like just making like bunch of new friends in like the TFT community is like really nice. Sure, moo. Like a bunch of my friends have been like super supportive about it, and yeah, that's about it.
All right, awesome. Frodan, any thoughts you have before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the GiantSlayerTV people. Wow, shocking. We're on their channel. They're going to be hosting a women in leadership tournament that's going to be casted by women. It's kind of like a for women by women event. And it's got some of your favorite personalities, you know, and it's going to be really fun to see that. It's going to be happening next week, I believe, DoA. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. It is going to be Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So this coming weekend. Yeah, it's going to be great. Going to be neat. Great players like Emily Wang's playing in that, and our own Risa is going to be casting it alongside Necra, who is a well-known personality in the Pokemon community, and she also hosted NA qualifiers and did an amazing job. So that'll be really fun to see them join forces to cast that event. Should be a really good one.
Yeah, it should be fun. One of my good friends, Luna, from Hearthstone Grandmasters, is going to be playing it. She hit Challenger during set 4.5, so. And competed in some of the Fight Night Rising. And I'm also excited to see Sarah compete as well. That'll be really fun. She's really interesting personality, very, very fun and lighthearted. So it'll be interesting to see her initial 2 items and say it's doomed and go 8th. Or land her first. It'll be great.
It's going to be great. And stick around, too, because we're going to be raiding one of the competitors' channels right after that. So you get a chance to watch some practice going on live. It's going to be amazing. But that's going to wrap it for Teamfight Talkshow today. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you to the Wisdom Giant Slayer staff for putting on a great show, as always. Thanks to my wonderful co-host, Frodan, and our guest, DQA, for making this a fun, exciting, poignant, thought-provoking, emotional roller coaster of an Oscar-winning performance of a show. It's been great, and thanks to you, the fans, for watching. We'll see you next time. Again, stick around. Gonna raid an Awesome Players channel. Don't go anywhere. But until the next time you see us on our channel, take care, and we'll see you next time.